Are state governments the culprits in this budget battle in terms of like who got what, who's getting ignored? What is really the truth? We're going to take a stab at explaining to you what are the sources of revenue for the government, that is the central government, and then how that gets distributed among states and the center, and how well are the states doing. I'm going to quickly go over a couple of states and how they perform to give you an idea how the states are performing. So this is the crux of this monologue. Request all of you to please like this video and share it with your friends and family, because this is one thing where if you look at this video and plus look at all the references that we are providing, you'll have a very comprehensive picture of how the money gets distributed between center and states. This is especially useful for those in Tamil Nadu who have to put up with a lot of nonsense from DMK, or in Kerala where they get a lot of nonsense from the left-owned media outlets. Here we go. State governments are India's inefficient bloodsuckers. Why do we say that? Let's take a quick look at the numbers. The GST collection for the fiscal year 2023-24 was 20.18 lakh crores. Of this is distributed three ways: the central GST, the state GST, and then the interstate GST. Interstate GST, from what I understand, and I could be incomplete in my understanding, but this is one of the things. What it is supposing a product is manufactured in one state and it has to go through 4 states before it is consumed in the 5th state. Now, all these states along the way are also eligible for taking a small cut out of the revenue that the 5th one consumes. So that is what is called as interstate supplies. So anything that passes through state borders, that is IGST that gets levied. So you will see when you buy like vegetables or anything like that, take a look at your bills in India. You will get these three breakouts. What is CGST on this? What is the SGST on this? And what is the IGST on this? I've actually looked at it and I know I've seen the thing many times. Now, the revenue from the collection, the GST, is shared between the states and the center. Now, the CGST, that is the central government's portion, 30% of that revenue is devolved to the states, while the remaining 70% is retained by the government. Now, the 30% is distributed according to some sort of a formula, and I'm going to touch upon that in just a minute. The sharing ratio may vary depending on the specific GST laws and regulations in practice. Now, what happens is under GST, you don't have liquor and you don't have energy products. No kerosene, no natural gas, no petrol, no diesel, right? These things are levied by each state according to their whim and fancy. So this is one place where the state tries to make a lot of revenue by way of tax collection. So even the CGST part, 30% comes back to the states. Now, how does the GST revenue get shared? The states get 40%, the center gets 40%, and 20% to IGST, that is interstate supplies. The SGST revenue of 40%, right, is retained entirely by the state government. The IGST is shared 50-50 between the states and central. So that varies because of the number of states it might pass through. So each state will not get 50%, it might get a small fraction of that because of the number of states involved. Now, on top of all this, it is important to note that the states were guaranteed a 14% annual growth in GST revenues. It doesn't matter how much the collection was, they were guaranteed a 14% annual growth. In other words, 100, 114, 129, and so on and so forth in every passing year. This was supposed to give a degree of financial security for the states because everybody was switching over to a new system, right? 2017 is when GST was introduced, July 1st, 2017. Today, we are past July 1st, 2024. 7 years have elapsed. I don't believe this has been stopped by the central government. I think it is still continuing. I may want to check that. I don't have that information off the top of my hand, but states did get a lot of help. The other big source of tax collection is the direct tax collection, and that is close to 19.58 lakh crores. Now, this is direct taxes, And this will be from personal income tax as well as corporate income tax, plus a few other things. This is completely retained by the center. However, the central government shares a portion of the direct taxes with the states through Finance Commission grants and transfers. The Finance Commission recommends sharing ratio is typically around 30 to 40% of the net proceeds of direct taxes. Out of this 30 to 40%, this has been changing from year to year. Now, the 15th Finance Commission has recommended 41% of the net proceeds of direct taxes for the states for the period 2021 to 22 for the next 5 years. So, while the state governments do not receive a direct share from the direct tax collection, they do receive a significant transfer of funds from the central government through the Finance Commission grants and transfers. State governments have too much money and power, and yet they do too little in return. They are the most inefficient form of government in India. Yes, many of you are going to start screaming at me saying, oh, what about the BJP government? What about this? What about that? Look, the state governments are not as well run as the central government. Maybe it is because Modi and his drive for efficiency that has caused the center to clean up its act, but all the state governments must follow suit. That is not happening. Why is that not happening? First of all, the state governments keep giving all these freebies. Where does the money for that come from? It doesn't come from the center. It comes from their own budget, from their own development projects. The potholes will increase, but every woman might get 1,000 rupees a month. What good is it if in one pothole somebody loses a limb and then it costs them a lakh to get medical treatment? So this is just inefficient use, and they have a sense of entitlement. If you take a look at the Tamil Nadu government, for example, they have this TASMAC collection that is essential for them to even give the salaries for their government employees. If tomorrow TASMAC is closed, they would not be able to pay the state government salaries. That's how bad things are. So how come things came to this pass? That is the question. And they are now giving what? Free bus rides to women. What has happened because of that is the metros are running in loss, and metro system in Chennai might actually stop. Like they have announced that in Hyderabad they are going to stop. L&T has said that we no longer run in Hyderabad because again the same problem there. Women are being allowed to go free in buses. In Karnataka it's worse. Women go free, but men have to pay higher fares in buses. And I don't know when their metro will say we can't run this thing anymore. So these are all not good things. People have to pay for what they get by way of service. So in Kerala, things are far worse. If you remember that one outburst of Arif Mohammed Khan, where he said that the ministers are misusing and abusing their power, whereby every year they changed like 15 people who can get us help. They get their 15 of those in 1 year, and after 1 year they absorb them as government salaries, and then these people get money for life, and they don't even have to work after that. So you have a lot of people sitting pretty on government pensions. That needs to be completely cracked and closed, I would say. And I don't know when that's going to happen, who will have the gumption, the testicular gravitas to do that. But I'm hopeful that a day like that would come. Otherwise, right now, what you see is people from Kerala are really suffering from this kind of maladministration. It doesn't matter which front is in power, they both do the same thing. Not only that, they with much fanfare went and floated masala bonds on a London Stock Exchange, only to see that the money that came by way of the bond revenue collection, everything got distributed or swallowed instead of using it to do a project from whose proceeds they could have paid the bond interest. They couldn't do that. So what they did 2-3 years later, they quietly absorbed the bonds as a regular expense from the state, so that the state will have to take the burden of paying the bonds also on top of whatever other burdens it has. Very sad state of affairs. And India doesn't really get the concept of bonds, especially the state printed issued bonds. I wouldn't touch them with a 40-foot pole because they just don't understand what it is. Bonds are sacrosanct. Come rain or shine, whatever it is, you have to pay the interest. The bonds have a rating, A+, A++. and the rating is given for a reason. Anyway, so this is the short and long of it. So the state governments need to be more efficient. They can raise money in the market, but they need to be more transparent, more honest, no freebies. That's the way to go. Then everybody will live in prosperity. Will that happen? I hope so. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.